Ready? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just click one of them. Sorry. And that should get you going. Yeah, it's just so that we don't have hackers. We have to have a registration. And that way we know who all's been a part of it too. Okay, I'm waiting to see you. Oh, all right, I'm gonna hang my phone up, okay?
Hello, hello.
There we go. Okay, so you might want to ask somebody else who's on it with you to just keep checking the chat room, because once you put the slideshow on, once you share your slideshow, it's you can't really see the chat room anymore.
Okay.
But the view that I like is the gallery view where you can see everybody who has their camera open.
Right.
And I like to click participants. It's at the bottom. If you click it, it shows up on the right. And then you can see who else participating.
Gotcha.
And then I also like to click on chat, and that shows up on the right also.
Okay. So Renee, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Would you mind being my chat box checker?
Oh, I absolutely would love to be your chat box checker.
Okay. So let me know if there's a question or a comment in there that I need to address while we're going through this.
Will do. Well, the first one says good morning.
Good morning. Good. Perfect. And I see Jordan. Are you on with us? So if I see him, that means he's there, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
but he might have stepped away. He's got his camera off and he's muted. Maybe he's getting coffee.
Okay. We know that part of this presentation is about going in and setting up smart plans in Command. And I've not done that. So I was hoping maybe somebody on the call here today this morning who has some experience with that, when we get to the smart plans part, could maybe throw in their 2 cents so we can reach back out to Jordan as we're going through this. Have any of you guys used the smart plans in Command? Renee, you're saying yes?
I have, although I think Jordan would be a great resource to show that. So I'm sure he'll be back any minute now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's 9 o'clock now. You have 8 people on, Erica. I'm sure in the next few minutes more people will jump in, and there's probably other people who have done it also. So maybe as a group you guys can talk about it. And if you could start by just introducing yourself and telling a little bit about your history, that would be awesome. And then at some point, whenever you're ready you remember how to share your screen to do the PowerPoint?
I believe I do. I see it down at the bottom, says share screen, and I've got
Okay.
my PowerPoint presentation up, so that should happen.
So I'll be here in the background. I'm gonna mute myself but if you need me for anything, just holler, okay?
Rosie shared the wrong link on the email this morning. So she's redoing it. And so some of the people from Santa Cruz may be a little late.
The link from yesterday's email works too.
It's
It's all the same link.
It's the
Okay,
same
here
link.
comes-
Yeah, it's the same link every single day.
Yeah, for some reason it got changed.
Yeah, I had that experience when I first got on this morning, and it took me to the wrong place. But I think like Laura said, we're all getting there. I see a lot of people are adding themselves. So I am going to go ahead and start.
Thank you.
Please feel free to just give one of these and speak out if you guys want to interject anything throughout this. But for those of you that don't know me, my name is Erica Pittman Gaynor, and I have been with Keller Williams Santa Cruz since January of 2008. Got my license in January of 2007. And yeah, just plugging along here. I'm a 7-time Bold graduate. And I did just see this morning that they're offering Bold online now, starting in May, and it's only going to be 4 weeks, and it's only $99. So highly, highly encourage everybody to do Bold. Again, like I said, I did it 7 times because those were my most successful years when I did Bold. So if you have any questions, throw them into the chat box. Renee is going to be keeping an eye on that for me and letting me know when there's questions. Also, like I said, feel free to give a wave and just please speak up and interject with anything as possible. And I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen now and get the presentation up. This is where it gets tricky because when I start sharing my screen, then this whole piece of it disappears from my view, so I'm not going to be able to see you guys, but let's just go for it and try it here. So let me see, here is my PowerPoint, and we go from here, I think, there we go. Okay, oh, and I can still see you guys on the right-hand side, so great. So this session is all about finding and winning the buyer, and when I started in real estate, I've never been on a team. So for me, the easiest and most effective way to get new buyers has always been open houses. But that's going to vary for every person. And your business is going to evolve around the activities that you are good at and that you enjoy doing. So if open houses aren't your thing, find another way to meet people. But the real trick, I think, to getting clients successfully and consistently is to figure out what you like to do. Because if you hate to do it, it's just going to be like pulling teeth. Like for me, door knocking is just, I can't do it. I've tried it, I hate it, so I just don't do it. I don't beat myself up about it anymore. I just do what works for me. So there's two things that successful agents are doing every single day. The first and foremost, of course, is growing your business. So that's our lead generation, period. The second part of our business is actually running the business. So taking care of those clients that you're now getting into contract, whether it be selling a house or helping them buy a house, negotiating your contracts. Luckily, transaction management is not something that you should be spending a lot of time on. That's why we have Glenda, and she's worth every penny when she's doing that for us. She knows files backwards and forwards, knows exactly what to look for, where signatures should be, etc. So please, if you're not using Glenda, consider using Glenda as your transaction coordinator and or another transaction coordinator if that's better for you. Another piece of running our business is managing all our vendors, all our affiliates, also setting your goals and your business plans. Compliance and risk management is a huge piece of this, and we really do have to stay on ourselves for this because there's not generally people looking over our shoulder every time we have a conversation or we represent a contract to a client. Those are vital that you are on top of your game as far as compliance and risk management. There's another agent in our office that I just love, and she always jokes with me that whenever we have a risk management meeting, she gets sick to her stomach because there's so many things that we can be liable for, and you really have to stay on top of that. Also, the trainings and then managing your finances as well are a huge piece. So what we're going to focus on today is going to be lead generating for buyers and sellers. And it's not going to be this is a pretty quick moving class. There's not nearly the amount of materials that we would normally have in an Ignite class because they've condensed it down to just an hour. So again, please reach out. Let me know if you have questions as we go. But the first thing you need to do is find your buyers. So that's where I was talking about the open houses. So here's some neat statistics that actually are good news for us, is that 89% of buyers that buy a home actually buy them through a real estate agent. 41% of buyers actually found their agent through a referral from friends or family. And this is obviously the best way to get a buyer, is when I have a client call me up and say, my coworker such and such told me that you're my agent. Those are the kinds of clients that you want out there. So as you are working with your clients, don't wait until the very end of the transaction when everything is done and finished to plant the seed of referrals with your clients. The best time to bring up a referral is when you've just solved a problem for a client. So really think about that. We are solving problems all the time for our clients, more than they even know. And the best time to plant that seed is when you have just solved a problem for them. Because they're feeling really good about you at that time. They're feeling great. They're happy to have you. They can't imagine trying to do this without you. So really start to hone in on listening for when your clients are being appreciative of you and something you just did. And then finding a unique way, not obvious, not a way that looks like you're taking advantage of the situation, but finding a unique way to start to plant that seed and cultivate it. Sorry, I just got a message here, making sure it's not one of you. And 75% of buyers only talk to one agent before they choose who to work with. 75%. So again, this is why open houses were great for me, because I found it relatively easy after several months of being in the industry and doing open houses and being shot down a lot of times too. But I did eventually find, ways to interject something into the conversation, and it really is all about finding a need that they have and then somehow offering how to fix that need or help that need. And you have about, maybe a minute in an open house to really latch on to that information, sometimes longer, but it just depends on the activity in the open house and how perceptive people are, et cetera. So 51% of buyers actually visit open houses as a way to search for homes. And I think also search for agents, because I know I can tell a lot about an agent in the first 5 minutes when I walk into an open house. So there you go, good way. So once you find a buyer, obviously the number one goal is to get their contact information. You want to have some way to stay in touch with them. So really, I would say the two main things that you want when you are meeting a buyer or finding a buyer is figuring out something that they need that you can satisfy and getting their contact information. Ideally, phone number, email, and physical address, because that allows you to call, email, text, and drop letters. Finding their physical address can be relatively easy if they're a homeowner. You can look them up and find out what properties they own. You can also oftentimes find their physical address by just looking at where their property tax bill goes. So cultivating the buyer leads, staying in touch with them, making them feel like you remembered them and you remembered something about them. So oftentimes it's as simple as telling them what you're going to do next. So here's what I tell everybody is when you're having a conversation with a buyer, don't just end the conversation when you're done talking and be like, okay, that was great. Talk to you soon. No, try to always tell them what's going to happen next. So if they're just looking and they haven't even begun to get their financial file together, that can be a very good starting point. I oftentimes let people know, you should start getting your financial file going months before you're ready to actually write a contract, because there may be things within your financial portfolio that we could work on to give you greater buying power down the road. There may be things on their credit report that should be cleaned up. Oftentimes, many times, we get a credit report and there's things on there we didn't even know were still on our credit report. And those can affect your credit score, which can affect your qualifying for financing. Also, you do not, and you should not, want to spend time on people who are not financially pre-approved. Because if they're not willing to even take the step to show you that they are financially able to buy a house, then they're certainly not ready to buy a house. So one of my very first conversations with a huge number of buyers, if not all of them, is, do you have financing in place? Are you going to be getting financing, or are you going to be buying all cash? If they're going to tell you that they're buying all cash, you want to know they have the cash, because again, anybody can say that. But, and it's very much like, I present this to buyers. I say, a seller is not going to even look at an offer from you unless you have verifications that you are either qualified for a loan or pre-approved for a loan, or you have the funds in an account with your name on it. And so likewise, we as agents should be requiring the same to work with any buyers. I'm not going to work with a buyer who has no money, because you're not a buyer if you have no money. So in order for me to represent you as your agent, I need to know that you are willing, able, and ready to buy a house. And that means that I need to know that you are financially, able to. So for me, that starts with a sit down with the lender and myself and the buyer, just to go over some simple questions. So this leads us to the buyer consultation, which we're not there yet. That's way up further by the sign the buyer agreement here in our timeline. We're back still on cultivating buyer leads, but this is part of cultivating those leads. Is you've got to weed out the people that are just not truly buyers, and do not spend your time on them. Because you're just throwing money away. So we'll get more into that as we get closer to signing the buyer agreement. But cultivating buyer leads, a great way to do that, especially once we're actually able to go out and look at properties again, is just remembering, find out even just one thing that's very, very, very important to these people about the property where they're going to land. And then as you're looking at properties, which we should be doing every single day, and virtually or in person, it doesn't matter. Right now, it's all virtual. But as you're looking at properties, look for properties that have those qualities or those amenities or those features that that buyer in particular mentioned. And when you find a property like that, shoot it off to the client and just say, hey, I just saw this house today and I saw the gorgeous garden out back with the koi pond. And I remembered how much you told me you love koi ponds. It made me think of you. And send the property to them. That right there is a cultivation. That's showing them, oh my gosh, she not only remembered me, but she saw something that I liked and she thought of me and she sent me the information. If you can do that kind of activity once, twice, 3 times a week, for a potential buyer, you are going to suck them in, because it is very, very, very rare in this world that we live in. And I don't mean the coronavirus world. I just mean today's high tech, we do a million things every hour type of world, is people tell you they're going to do things all the time. We do this with our own families. We say we're going to do something and then life jumps in the way and we don't end up doing it. And everybody just accepts this as the norm. Oh yeah, they said they were gonna do that, but unless it's vitally pressing, there's a very good chance you'll never get around to it. Unless, like I said, it's something that is vitally pressing. So several of my clients throughout what I started in 07, so we're pushing 14, 15 years now. Several of my best clients, my most faithful clients, the feedback that I've gotten from them has been, you always do what you say you're going to do. And that is a rarity these days. So like I said earlier, when you're talking to a buyer, as you're wrapping up your conversation, and you have to be mindful about this. It's just like being mindful about when to plant the seed about getting a referral. Don't even try, end the conversation with what's going to happen next. Even if it's just, well, we're just going to sit back and wait for now. You know, okay, so now that, let me just recap, now that we've talked about this, it looks like, you know, we're just going to, for now, keep an eye on the market. You guys go ahead and get those last few items together for the lender. I'll touch base with him next week. And I'm going to keep looking at properties for you. If you see anything interesting, let me know right away. Otherwise, I'm going to check back in with you in blank number of days. And then put it on your calendar. Right when you hang up that phone or as you're talking to them, put it on your calendar to call them back that next week at that exact time that you told them you would do. And that right there is going to set you above, because most people don't do that. Most people end a conversation with, great, talk to you soon, or that sounds good, I'll touch base with you later. None of those don't tell you when you're going to touch back base or when you're going to get back in touch with them. So really try to have an actual action that you are going to tell them before you hang up. This is what I'm going to do next. You'll hear from me here. If you need me beforehand, give me a buzz, whatever you want that to be. Also, when you find the buyer and you are getting their information from them, find out how they prefer to be touched base with. Do they want a phone call? Would they prefer text? Do they like email? For me, email is the last thing that I check, because I get so many emails in a day. It's just not even funny. So my clients know, if you need me, text me, period. Because I check my texts 24, well, not 24/7. I don't. I shut off my phone at night. But I can be in a meeting. I can be anywhere and be able to check my texts. And 99% of the time, I can send a response if I need to. So I will let my clients know, if you're going to email me something and I don't respond right away, it means I'm not sitting in front of my computer. And I don't do email on my phone. I just don't. I'm too attached to my phone already. I don't want to be on it on email as well. So I just tell my clients this. You train people how to treat you. Part of a bold law. So train your clients how they can reach out to you, and ask them how they want you to reach out to them. And then, you know, follow that lead and do exactly what they've asked. So cultivating your buyer leads. You're going to start at the top here with if you're a solo agent, you are likely going to be handling all your own leads, meaning you have to go out and find them. And I have met with a lot of new licensees over the years, because I was part of our growth culture, our growth committee on the ALC many years while I've been here. And so for many years, I was in charge of trying to find people that were interested in getting their licenses. And so
Opportunity employer.
it actually surprised me how many of these new licensees or people that were interested, they expected the brokerage to give them leads. And there are a few brokerages out there, smaller ones too, that do that, but you are the CEO of your own company. In Keller Williams, that's what we are trained. And it's true. As an independent contractor, you are the CEO of your business. So you need to figure out where to get your leads. And all you have to do to get leads is talk to people. It's seriously that easy. You just have to talk to people and find out, what are their needs? What are their goals? You know, pretty much everybody is going to look to buy or sell real estate at some point. At least anybody, you know, that's going to be a bona fide client. So again, you have to have some kind of system to organize your leads, to track your leads, to connect with your leads, to cultivate your leads, and ultimately all of those items that I just mentioned. Your ultimate goal is to get to the bottom left hand of this screen right here, the appointment. So you want to get people to the table. And the best way to see how serious somebody is to get them into your office. If they're not willing to come into the office and sit down and meet with you and talk about their plans, then they're not serious. So favorite word, next. If they're not willing to do these things, next. Move on to the next lead. So you want to get into an appointment. And you want to get these people into contract, whether it's a listing contract or a buyer's contract, which is ultimately going to lead you to closing. So here's where we kind of jump in. And Jordan, if you're still on our call, and anybody else who has, I did actually go into Command yesterday and started playing around with smart plans.
Awesome.
I'll be the first to admit that I got there and I looked around and I said, I don't know what to do next, and I closed it. So this is where, Jordan, if you want to give a little input as to talking a little bit about smart plans.
Yeah, sure. Right now, smart plans and I have a love-hate relationship, so we're working through that. I call it, we're in therapy right now. They are basically, the end goal of smart plans is to replace the campaigns, to have the touches for the contacts, to take them from connected to captured to lead, from lead to client to post-client to referral to whatever it may be. So right now we have a long-term, a mid-term, nurture, where you're following up every set amount of days. There's a way, Gary Keller's really big on, you have to have an organized database, have something to put them in, and then you have to have a way to systematically touch on them. So we have a, AJ, I see your comment, yes, it's a love-hate relationship. We have to have a way to communicate with them regularly and feed it, and that is the base of a successful business right there. So you put your contacts in, you add them to these different various smart plans in, there's different tasks. So you call them, there's one for your app, get your app out to as many people as you can and it'll spread like wildfire. One of the things they say with profit share is build it wide and we'll take it deep. And it's so true. If you start getting your app out just to like your first level of people, so your friends, your family members, they're going to start sending it out. And we have a smart plan for that. So it's a really, really useful tool. If you're not in it right now, I suggest just going in it, taking a look at it. And if it scares you, awesome. Talk to your market center about how you can get more involved, how you can get more classes on this. I'll put my contact information in the chat and you can reach out to me. AJ is the tech guy for Campbell. So he's a great resource too. We have Jason Flynn, and I believe Renee is in Gateway for tech stuff. So there's a lot of resources, but jump in head first and don't look back.
So Jordan, you're doing a tech call every week, correct?
In a couple different aspects, like I have the tech ambassadors call, but are you referring to like a class?
Yeah, like our office.
Okay.
You know, I know we've got Zoom meetings pretty much Tuesday through Friday. And I thought that one day a week was the was Rosie. One day a week was Jordan. One day a week was Elaine's happy hour with a guest. Is that still consistently going on?
Yeah, so in April for this month, last week we had the basics of Command. So just the very fundamentals of it. This week is going to be 2.0. So a little bit elevated level. And then the week after is 4 steps to gaining a buyer through Command. And the following week is 4 steps to gaining a seller through Command.
And are those every Wednesday?
Thursday.
Thursday. And that's at 1, right?
Thursday at 1 o'clock.
Thursday at 1. Okay. So there's a goal to meet for any of us that need to get better in Command, is to be on Jordan's Thursday calls at 1 o'clock. Okay, so I'm going to move on here a little bit more. We're going into qualifying buyer leads. Again, this is what we were talking about with making sure that these buyers have money. Can't buy a house without money. So qualifying, and also their time frame. You know, what's the motivation? Why are they buying? Because some people are buying and they have to buy. Other people are buying because they're tired of renting and they've been thinking about it for a long time. 2 completely different clients right there. So again, asking questions. And when you go in to get your materials for these Ignite classes, I don't know if you noticed, but when you get into, I believe it's when you click on the Ignite Lab 2.0 in KWU, before you scroll down to the class that you're looking for to get your materials, at the top, there is a link that says Ignite Toolbox. And if you click on that toolbox, that's where you're going to find quite a few really helpful PDFs. And one of them is a buyer lead sheet. And so I actually went in and I printed out the buyer lead sheet. A buyer lead sheet can be whatever questions you want. They are just giving you an example. But there's some really good stuff in that toolbox. There's a cover letter for when you're presenting an offer. Every offer that you present should always have a cover letter addressing the agent and the sellers from you, the agent, representing you and your buyers. There's a, like I said, there's an example cover letter in there. So if you have not gone in and checked out the Ignite toolbox yet, definitely do that, because everything that you need to do your business has already been created and it's in here somewhere. You just have to find them.
And then a signal light problem on the
So you've got, basically, you want to try to categorize your leads. You want to put them into, I don't care if you call them 1, 2, or 3, or A, B, or C, but you really do need to categorize your contacts as you get them. And so for me, they get categorized as a buyer or seller right away. But then you can go even another level deeper, is in your buyer leads that you've categorized, all these people are potential buyers. Read them. If they are able, ready, and willing to purchase, like right now, if they found the perfect house, and it's okay to ask them that. When you're qualifying the buyers, flat out say to them, if I found you your exact dream house tomorrow in your price range, would you write an offer on it? Ask them and see what they say. If they say yes, they're an A. Okay? And if they're not, if they say, well, no, we probably, I don't think we're ready yet to pull that plug, or our lease doesn't expire until, 3 months from now, then they're a B. They're able and ready, but not right now today. And then C are people that are really just your looky-loos for right now. And those are people, they're valid people. Trust me, I have had certain contacts in my database for over 10 years that have never purchased or sold anything with me. And yet 10 years later, I will get an email out of the blue. And luckily, I have their contact in my database, dated and everything from the time I very first met them. And I can't tell you, I have a lady named Senia who's been in my database for over 10 years. I think I met her back in 2009 or something. And I just sent her an email out of the blue. I think it was right around Christmas this last year. And just said, hey, it's been forever since I've reached out to you. Did you ever buy a house, this and that? And she emailed me right back. And then I went back into my notes to see when I met her. And I emailed her back and I said, do you realize it has been over 10 years since you and I first started communicating? And she emailed me right back. 10 years, oh my gosh, I didn't even think it had been that long, And so you connect with these people. She's still getting my emails. She's still responding. And I mean, she responded the same day, right away. So you know what? Those notes went right into her contact. Hey, I reached out to Senia 10 years later. She responded, Keep in touch with those people. Just like the SMART plan, put them on some kind of drip, some kind of campaign. And then it's not enough to just do that. Every now and then you have to, as a live, warm person, you have to actually reach out to them to something that does not feel like it's on a drip, just to let them know that you are still there.
Hey, Erica, have you ever, let's say one of those clients or one of those people have never purchased with you, but they've referred you to someone and they've closed a purchase with you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have one lady, Linda Walker. I met her at an open house my very first year. I wasn't even with Keller Williams yet. I was with a local broker just for 1 year. And I met this wonderful lady, Linda, at an open house, and she had a son who lived down in Southern California. He was a firefighter. He was moving up here. And long story short, we wrote an offer on $1 million+ property, a listing that Lauren Spencer had. And in the end, the son ended up pulling out of the contract. It wasn't feeling right. He ended up getting transferred back to LA. He never bought, but I stayed in touch with Linda. I still am in touch with Linda to this day. And she has referred me 3 different clients over those years. And so Linda, to me, is a preferred past client, even though she personally never purchased anything with me. She referred 2 of her friends to me that both sold houses, and then one of them also bought. And then she referred another client to me that sold a house. So I've gotten 3 listings out of Linda, and she never worked with me personally. But, you know, I took her sailing on the O'Neill catamaran with another friend of ours. And, you know, I just maintained those relationships. So absolutely. That's why, you know, when you're talking to people, even if, like I said, if they're not ready, willing, and able to buy right then, they know people. And if you can get in good with them and you can make a good impression on them, and it's as simple as being that person who tells them what she's going to do next and then does it, or he. That is seriously one of the easiest things you can do in this business, is tell people what you're going to do next and then actually step up and do what you said you were going to do. Because it's not that people don't want to do what they say, it's just that we can't. We get so sidetracked with life and with all the millions of things going on. I mean, how many times do you go upstairs to get something and then you get up there and you're like, what did I come up here for? I mean, too many things get in the way and you just forget. You forget what you said you were going to do. So that's one of the best things you can do. So this is an example of that buyer lead sheet. Again, you can get this in the toolkit. And even if you're not going in there for just this, go into the toolkit just to see what's there. I was excited when I went in, and I have most of these items already, but it was just, oh, wow, a cover letter. Let's see what theirs looks like. Oh, that's really similar to what mine looks like. Okay, great. So check it out. Qualifying your buyers. Again, I've talked quite a bit about that. It's all about asking questions, really. And ask a question, and then they give you an answer, and ask them to go tell you more. That's the easiest way to ask questions. So what's motivating you guys to want to buy? Oh, okay, your kids, da-da-da. Well, why is that important? Okay, and what would it mean for you if that happened for you and your family? I mean, really get them to start talking about the emotional parts of this and how it's going to benefit them, and really draw those questions out so that they are, because when people are saying it out loud to you, what this would mean for them, how life would be better, you know, maybe it's a mom who's got an awful kitchen and she just dreams of having a home with just an amazing kitchen. I mean, get into those conversations and then remember that about her. Hey, this woman loves kitchens. Okay, gosh, when I see a good recipe, when I see a good family activity to do in the kitchen, I mean, there's so many things that you can attach to that desire that they have, and then go find something out there in the real estate world that would make them feel like you can help them get a step closer, and send her that information. Do this for every family member anytime you can, and it's going to draw people to you. Okay, and then signing the buyer's agreement. So if you have not gone in and read the buyer representation agreement, exclusive, make sure it's the exclusive one. You can find this in CAR. Go in, print this out, and read it front to back, because a lot of people have a hard time getting the buyer to sign the buyer agreement. Nobody seems to have a hard time getting the seller to sign a listing agreement. Why does everybody have a hard time getting a buyer to sign a buyer's agreement? This buyer's agreement, it tells the buyers exactly what you are obligated to do for them as their agent. So it's a contract that I tell people, I'm like, this is the document that, number one, it says that we are working together, that you and I have decided to work together in your purchase of a property. But more importantly, it tells you, Mr. Buyer, what I am legally obligated to do or not do on your behalf. And so they need to know this. They should know this. They should know what an agent's job is. And that's what the buyer agreement is. It's outlines for them what my obligations and duties and scope of work are on their behalf. So if anybody needs to role play how that looks, I am always available. I've never had an issue getting the buyer agreement signed. And I've never had somebody say, no, I don't want to sign that, because I just haven't. Maybe it's the way that I put it out there. I mean, who doesn't want to sign something that outlines everybody's job? I mean, it holds me accountable as well as the buyers. So getting that buyer agreement signed is very, very important. So here you go on your signing the buyer's agreement is ask them for the business. When will you be ready to buy? And then give them an option on times. Don't just say, you know, do you want to meet next week? Well, great. Sounds like you're really ready to make this step and get closer to having that home. Let's meet up in the office next week to talk about it a little bit more and get a plan of action. You know, does Friday at 2 or whatever, does a weekend at 4 work best for you? The other thing I always do is once I've got them to agree to come in and sit down with me, and I've asked the question about financing, hopefully they don't have their own lender, because everything is easier when the very first conversation between the lender and the buyer happens when I'm at the table. So my number one goal is always to get them into the office, and then I just say, hey, do you mind if my lender pops in for 20 minutes and just asks us a few questions and gets us some basic information? And again, unless they already have a lender that they are attached to, and that usually happens for me when it's a young couple and their parents have a lender that the young couple that they want their kids to use, whether they've had a long-standing relationship with this person or whomever. And that's great. That's fine too. Get that lender to come to the meeting and join you. And I always have the lender come in first. Let the lender come in, have them just start asking some basic information, income, debt, credit score, jot down some numbers, and then the lender gives the buyer an idea of what other kind of concrete information they're going to need, whether it be W-2s or tax returns or all of that. And then after about 20 minutes of having the lender in the room, then I send them on their way. And if you're working with a good lender, you actually make each other shine in that appointment. So I have a really good relationship with my favorite lender, and I will point out his strengths in front of my buyer. Like as we're talking and having our meeting, I'll say, you see, this is one of the advantages of working with such and such, is I can call such and such on a Sunday at 7 p.m. and he's going to pick up his cell phone. You know, I can't get that if I'm dealing with Bank of America or Wells Fargo or some other big company, you know, that only works Monday through Friday. And likewise, he will do the same to the buyer as we're all talking. Something will come up and he'll say, you know, Erica has a really good point right there. And this is another benefit of working with her is da, 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 da. And so you actually can feed off of each other and compliment each other in that meeting and validate each other to your buyer. And that shows them, wow, these people really do have each other's back. They really do benefit from working with one another. So again, if you don't have a really close relationship with a lender, go make one. Find somebody that really clicks with you, you like their personality, and then cultivate them just like you cultivate a buyer. Take them out for a happy hour, go to lunch with them, go to coffee with them, get to know about their family, do all the same things that you were doing with your buyer with your vendors. Because these people, there's tons of them out there. There's mortgage people all over the place, but find the ones that work for you and that work well with you. I hate drama. I absolutely detest drama. I just don't think there's any need for it. You know, yeah, there's things that happen in our business all the time that feel like life and death. They're not life and death. There are problems, there are solutions, there are options, there's so many things out there that people get emotional about. And when you start getting emotional, especially as professionals, it just muddies everything. I mean, there's just absolutely no reason to lose your cool in this business. And everybody has had these issues. So my lender, no drama. We've had things that happen that looked like it could ruin our client's life. And I don't get a call going, oh my God, you're never gonna believe what happened. We're hosed. I mean, never. It's always like, oh, hey, we have a challenge. And I say, okay, what's our challenge? And then, you know, then we talk about the challenge. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a really good challenge. Okay, so what's our options here? What does this really mean for the client? We talk about the options, the lender and I. And then whichever one of us is the most appropriate person to approach the buyer, depending on what the issue is, we approach the buyer with the same attitude, okay? We've come across a challenge. This is not uncommon in our industry. I come across challenges every single day. Some are bigger than others, but here's where we're at. Here's our options. And you just kind of go through it like that. That is what caused me to give my undying loyalty to this lender, is years and years of working with him and going through situations that could have been ugly. And in the end, they just weren't, because we both understood that drama gets us nowhere. We've both worked with people on the other side of our transactions that totally lost their cool, that swear at you, that yell at you, that hang up on you. Yeah, it all happens. And those are the people that I just put a little black mark next to their name in my contacts, and you just file that information away for next time. Because again, going into it knowing that. So get the people around you that you really like to work with. So I think I'm pretty much reaching the end of the slideshow here. So I just want to open it up to the group. Are there any? I'm going to go off of the presentation and stop sharing now so I can see you guys. Is there anybody with any questions, any ahas, anything you want to share with the group? Any stories, anything?
One of the things I'd like to say, Erica, and I really, by the way, fantastic job teaching. I think you did phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
One of the things that I think is really important in what you're talking about when you talked about getting people to sign the buyer broker agreement, and I think a lot of people are going, oh, you know, is your attitude. You assume, why wouldn't you sign this? This is a relationship issue. Why wouldn't you sign this thing? Instead of going into it, well, I'm going to have them, I'm going to think about giving it to them and all that. And I think that's what makes the biggest difference. Your thoughts?
I think so too. And honestly, where I got that information when I said, you know, it actually outlines what my job is to do for you. Those are words that came straight from Frank Murphy. When I asked Frank years ago, how do you get people to sign the buyer's agreement? Because I had been telling somebody that I had no issues with it. And that was before I even used to use that verbiage. And then he explained that to me. So I went back and I reread the buyer representation agreement with that in mind. You know, this is telling Erica what her job is for you, Mr. Buyer. So go into it with that process and read through this and then think about that, because it's true. I mean, if you were going through a divorce, would you sign a contract with an attorney that you're going to retain to represent you? Yes. In any professional relationship, if you're going to have somebody represent you, you have a contract. And that's exactly what that buyer, plus that stops people from being able to go and work with another agent. This attaches them to you. I let them know at any time if you want to cancel this agreement. Absolutely, I would never fight you on that. I would never make somebody work with me, but that's individual. But yeah, you just let them know this is here just strictly as an outline. Tells you what my duties are, tells me, reminds me exactly what I need to do for you. And if at any time you want to cancel this contract, absolutely, you can know with 100% certainty that I would be happy to do that for you.
I think it also provides protection for the buyers as well. I recently had one where they were family friends and they were working with other realtors, all this stuff, and they had never signed a buyer broker agreement with anyone. So I knew that, one, I had to go above and beyond for them and show them that I was the realtor for them, and two, get a buyer broker agreement signed with them. Well, one of the factors that really led me to it was we had this hour, I was sitting in the Target parking lot and we had an hour conversation on the phone. And she said, well, we found this one realtor and he said he could get us a really good deal and he'll do the loan for us. And I said, okay, who is it? And they said his name. And I said, so he owns the brokerage. He wants to represent you. He's going to do the loan for you. And he owns the mortgage company. You don't see anywhere where that could go wrong. I mean, how much money is this guy making off of you? And they kind of looked at it like, well, what do you mean? He's only getting paid one time. I'm like, oh no, he's getting paid here. His brokerage is getting paid here. He's getting paid a commission for the real estate and the loan. So it's the education and building in that protection factor, because there's a lot of agents and a lot of mortgage brokers that do that.
Yeah, agreed. And having been in this business for as long as I have, and I know some of you out there in the class have been in for even longer than I am, but I am constantly amazed at the lack of understanding of how we get paid, how much we get paid, what it means for people when they all of a sudden on a whim choose to work with somebody else after you've been cultivating them for years. People just don't get it. People do not understand. And so I don't think that it's a bad thing necessarily to share with people how you get paid.
So
Honestly,
what do you say when they don't want to sign it? They say, no, I don't want to sign anything now. I'm not ready to sign anything now.
well, I play everything by ear, just like any kind of human relationship. You can't really do a boilerplate with everybody. I've had clients that didn't. Actually, I know I said earlier that I've never had somebody, but when I was brand new, I had a new buyer in my car and I had taken him out, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and I carried this dumb thing around with me and he refused to sign it. And finally, I just said, okay, I understand that you're not ready to do that yet, but he had gone through the qualification process. He was dealing with the lender. I knew he had the funds to do it. And in the end, I never did press him to sign it. Every now and then there's going to be somebody, and you have to make that decision. You can either move forward without having them sign it, just make sure that you get the agency signed right away. Or you can choose not to work with them. You can say, I understand that you're not ready to sign a contract, but the way my business runs, I have to have a signed contract with all of my clients, because you are, again, the CEO of your business. So you get to make the rules. If those are your rules, those are your rules. And they don't need to know who those rules came from. But, you can just say, I would be happy to refer you to another agent that I know would be okay moving forward and spending time with you without this agreement signed. And then refer him to somebody in your office who's willing to do the work for a 25% referral fee.
Hey,
Anybody else?
hi, Jordan. This is a direct question to Jordan about his situation with the broker and the mortgage lender and the agent all rolled into one.
Mm-hmm.
So a question for you is when your clients heard that, right? That this guy was acting as 3-in-1. What was their, did that help you? What was their reaction to that? And do you think that mattered to them, and that in some way, were you able to get to them saying, hey, these 3 roles, if they are different, they can provide better service to you, Mr. Customer? Just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. It really did matter to them. We actually just closed with me, so it worked out in my favor and their favor. And they are a they're a Christian couple, and they lean into their faith, and that's awesome. And the way I played it out for them was realtors subscribe to a code of ethics, and part of that is putting the client's best interest first. And you have one portion of interest in here, and they have 4 pieces of interest in this transaction that they're going to represent you in. Do you think that's ethical? Do you think they're in it for you, or do you think they're in it for the commission? And I'd put the question on them. I'll own it. It was a guided question, and it was a pointed question, and it worked.
That's awesome.
Awesome. That is great, Jordan.
And
That's a good way of looking at it.
another thing that happens, and I think it's kind of in the same vein, is that if you're working with a buyer and they go into an open house, there's there's some agents out there that'll say, if you buy through me, I'll get you the house cheaper.
Yeah.
I'll be able to whatever. And it's kind of the same presentation that Jordan gave, which is whose interest are they taking care of? I'm an advocate of double ending, don't get me wrong. But on the other hand, if someone is trying to get someone to work with them, by offering a discount on the house, that's a little different.
Yeah, and that definitely happens. Just happened to me with clients that I had been cultivating for years. They bought a listing of mine years ago, and we got along so well. It was a multiple offer situation, so they showed up at the open houses with, cookies and all these things to try to woo me so that they could get the house. They were the sweetest couple. In the end, they got the house, and then they actually came to a summer party I had at my house that year. And I stayed in touch with these people. They had 3 children. I sent cards every time they had babies. They had me out to their house at least 3 different times in the last 2 years because they were getting ready to sell it. And then I was on the road last fall, and I got a call from her, and they were in contract on another house, and they had gone into an open house. They had found their dream home, and I don't know how this agent finagled it, but there was 5 other offers on this property, and somehow she convinced them that if they wrote the offer with her, she could get it for them. And somehow she did, and she listed their house. And it was like such a kick in the teeth for me because I loved this couple. And Denise even went with me to see their house at one point because we were gonna list it. And next thing you know, I was just heartbroken. They bought $1 million house. They sold their adorable little house that I had originally sold to them. And even to this day, they don't get it. They don't understand. They don't think they did anything wrong. And I love this couple. So I haven't, I didn't decide I was going to divorce them or get rid of them or anything. In the end, I sent them an email last month. And I said, how is the new house? I'm so glad you guys found what you want. And now they're telling me they want to have me over this summer for a barbecue. So it's, you have to pick and choose. But I know these people, and I know they didn't do that. I don't think they even knew what this did to me emotionally and financially at all. They have no clue. And again, that's my bad for not educating them.
Yeah, Erica, that was an email. I'm so brave of you. And I'm sure it required a lot of willpower for you to write that email, biting your lips and, because I'd absolutely be mad. I'm sure you are mad as heck kind of thing with that kind of a relationship. But it's good that you're sharing because for people here that this happens, for people like me that, hey, that can happen. And so we can all learn from it and say, look, that is life. Every once in a while that's going to happen. Just try to see what we can do better. But, sometimes you can't do anything better, I guess.
Yeah, you don't know how many referrals you can get out of this, though, either at this barbecue. If you go to their house this summer, all those friends of theirs, they get to meet you as well. So, yeah, it'd be kind of silly to stop communicating with them since they have been a good, buyer and seller in the past.
Right. And they are, like I said, they are really, really sweet people that I really enjoy. And so I missed them. It hurt my heart to think that I would lose them if I decided to take this personally and just cut them off, which I have done with other clients that have done this to me because I didn't care about them as much. There's certain people that really care about. And when I thought about losing these guys out of my life completely because they did something I know they didn't mean to do to hurt me, they just were trying to get the best deal for themselves. And this lady somehow convinced, I just wish I could be a fly on the wall and have listened, you know, to what she fed them to make them think that. But it does happen. It happens to all of us, and it's going to happen repeatedly, and it hurts. But you just have to remember 9 times out of 10, it's not about you. It's about them. And that goes for everything in life. Every time you have an interaction with people where people are not okay to you, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, it's about them and what they're going through. It's not about you. So we just have to remind ourselves that.
I have a question for you, Erica, on that particular deal. Would you think that the education to this customer, and first question is, because it was a double deal, right? It was, they were buying a house and then they were selling their house, right? So maybe the agent gave them a deal which was a combination of both. Was there an education from your end in that to those customers saying, hey, that's how it works, and then if you do a listing and a selling, this is what you can do for them? Is that something that you had done it, or is it something that you think that's what won that other agent that deal?
Well, my bad in that, no, I have not educated them on any of that. Again, that's my bad because I was acting on the assumption that they understood it all. And I think we do that a lot. We oftentimes think, and I mean, I've had people assume both ways. Like I had a listing over near the harbor last year, and some guy came in and said, oh, so what, you get 20% of that, of the sale price, right? And I'm like, you know, not even close, 20%. I mean, and I did the math, and I'm like, this guy thinks I'm making 100 grand on this sale when I'm maybe making 8, you know? And so some people think we make a ton of money. Other people have no clue that how much money they are yanking out from under us when they do something like this. So I think becoming more transparent with how a realtor makes their money is something that, you know, I've considered bringing that into my buyer presentation a little bit more. And just saying, you know, I've learned over the years in my experience, people don't really understand how agents get paid. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of information about how we get paid before we even get into this. And you can do that as part of your buyer's consultation. You know, and I think that's a very fair, real way to go about this, because people, they think we make tons of money and do hardly anything. And it's really the opposite.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Erica. And yeah, and especially for customers who are very close to you, you can be a little bit more transparent to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, for this specific situation that you went through, it reminds me of a quote. And between stimulus and response, there's this place or space or something, and it talks about our choice. And in our choice, that represents our growth and our freedom. And I can't remember who said it and what the quote is exactly, but it's so true, because at some point we're all going to have it happen to us, where we have clients that go to someone else just totally right from under us. And, you know, we choose, do we continue the relationship with them, or do we like, nope, that's it? And what does that say about us?
Jordan, the quote was from Viktor Frankl.
Thank you.
Nice. Okay, well, anybody else have any more additions to add to this before we sign off at 10 o'clock exactly? Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Good job.
Great job, Erica. Great job.
Thanks,
You
Erica.
love your class. That's it. So nice.
All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.